Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Chandna.
And I'm Jyotsna Kumar. And on the show today, well, Israeli military says it had intercepted waves of missiles fired from Iran for the first time since early April. And now we know that Israeli sources are saying that they have attacked Iran in several places. Iranian media have now also responded, saying that they have also heard blasts in, of course, Tabriz, Isfahan and Tehran. Of course, we'll have to wait and see how that escalates further, as Trump had already warned Israel not to attack. And now with the attacks now happening as of now, what happens next? We'll get us all the detail on the show.
And while drama ensues and the battlefield only gets hotter on the US President Donald Trump cut short an NBC interview. This happened shortly before these strikes between Israel and Iran took place. This was after he faced repeated questions over his claims that California's primary elections and the 2020 presidential vote itself, they were rigged. Pressed for evidence by host Kristen Welker, Trump insisted his conclusions were based on what he sees and he hears. He stormed out. There's more on this as well. We'll start with the headlines first. This is World DNA.
Israel says it has struck targets in western and central Iran, as Iranian state media reports explosions in the cities of Tehran, Tabriz and Isfahan. And this comes after U.S. President Donald Trump had reportedly told Israel not to retaliate against latest Iranian missile salvo.
Donald Trump says he calls the shots on any deal with Iran, adding that Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu will have no choice but to accept if a deal is agreed.
An earthquake of magnitude 7.8 strikes off southern Philippines, triggering a tsunami alert in the nearby region. At least one person has died and 4 others injured, while a number of buildings have collapsed.
At least 5 people were wounded in a stabbing at New York's Penn Station. A suspect has been detained and the victims have been transported to the hospital.
The video shows ground support equipment colliding with parked aircraft at New Delhi's Indira Gandhi International Airport. The incident reportedly took place near Terminal 2 following heavy winds and rain on Sunday evening.
Oil prices jumped more than 2% after Israel launched airstrikes on Lebanon, raising fears of a wider West Asia conflict and potential disruptions to global oil supplies. Brent crude is up to about $95.5 per barrel, while US crude is trading close to $93.
The Israeli army has said it has struck targets in western and central Iran.
Iranian state TV reported explosions in the cities of Tehran, Tabriz and Isfahan. And this happened hours after Iran said that it fired multiple waves of missiles at northern Israel. And this is the first barrage from Iran towards Israel directly since an April ceasefire took hold in the war in West Asia that completed 100 days just recently on Sunday.
Now, the strikes come despite U.S. President calling Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, advising him against retaliation to make sure the 3 sides could salvage a deal. Trump appeared to downplay the strikes, telling Axios that it did not hurt anyone.
However, moments after, in a post on X, Israel Defense Forces said the Israeli Air Force struck military targets belonging to the Iranian terror regime, as they call it, in western and central Iran, quote unquote.
Israel's National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir had earlier said on a post on X that Tehran must burn after the Iranian strikes, while a spokesperson for the Israel Defense Forces said Iran made a grave mistake.
The Iranian terror regime had made a grave mistake when, yet again, it chose terror. The regime is trying to create a new equation when it carries out direct fire into our territory in response to IDF attacks in the Dahieh. We will not allow it.
And this was on a post on Telegram. IDF had said that its chief of the general staff is conducting a situational assessment, adding that Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir has vowed that the country will strike the enemy with determination as soon as the order is given.
Iran's foreign ministry said that the country is defending its security and national interests and warned that any attack from Israel against Lebanon or the Islamic Republic of Iran would be met with a crushing and comprehensive response.
Meanwhile, Iranians took to the streets of Tehran in support of the action against Israel. They waved Iranian and Hezbollah flags as they chanted pro-Iranian slogans. The US is urging members of the UN Nuclear Watchdogs Board to support a resolution demanding answers from Iran about its nuclear program.
Now, the measure would require Tehran to explain the fate of its bombed nuclear sites and the enriched uranium stored there. The draft resolution circulated ahead of this week's quarterly meeting of the IAEA's 35-nation board risks further complicating ongoing talks between Washington and Tehran. Iran has traditionally reacted strongly to resolutions critical of its nuclear program, often viewing them as politically motivated.
While previous IAEA resolutions targeting Iran have passed by a clear margin, this one could face greater pushback. This is because it comes from the US, which alongside Israel bombed Iran's nuclear sites just last June.
The IAEA too has been unable to inspect those facilities since the strikes, adding to the concerns over Iran's enriched uranium stockpiles. However, the draft stops short of referring Iran to the UN Security Council, a step which is reportedly under consideration.
Earlier, the IAEA had raised serious concerns over Iran's nuclear program. It stated that it has been unable to account for significant stockpiles of enriched uranium, including material enriched up to 60%, close to 90% weapons-grade levels.
Now, back in March, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi had said that the country's enriched uranium is under the rubble created by the June 2025 attacks on Iran's enrichment facilities. But IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi said Iran's enriched uranium stockpile remains inside the country, and the agency estimates that the stockpile includes 184.1 kilograms of uranium enriched to 20% purity and 440.9 kilograms enriched to 60% purity. Meanwhile, Iran has consistently maintained its nuclear program as strictly for peaceful purposes, including energy generation and for scientific research. However, Iran's claim stands contested.
Israel started bombing Iran's nuclear sites on the 13th of June, and this as US President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu repeatedly cited destroying Iran's nuclear program as one of their main aims in launching fresh strikes in February, and those strikes, of course, started on the 28th. Meanwhile, the US mission to the IAEA has declined to comment on its pursuit of a resolution this time.
Britain, France, and Germany have backed Ukrainian President Zelensky's proposal for direct talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
And this development, well, it comes following Zelensky's meeting with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, French President Emmanuel Macron, and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz at 10 Downing Street. According to a joint statement issued by the leaders following their defense talks, 3 European leaders endorsed Zelensky's push for a face-to-face meeting and urged progress towards a ceasefire.
Furthermore, Ukraine and its European allies have outlined 5 key principles for securing a just and lasting peace with Russia. Proposals include an immediate ceasefire, launch of negotiations based on current battlefield situation, and strong security guarantees for Ukraine. European leaders also stressed that U.S. must remain actively involved in peace process, even as President Donald Trump's attention has increasingly turned to conflict involving Iran.
Well, before the meeting, during an interview, Zelensky said that he is prepared to freeze the current front lines in war with Russia as a basis for launching peace negotiations, signaling a potential shift towards diplomacy. He further added that any talks would need to preserve Ukraine's sovereignty and security, while emphasizing that a ceasefire alone would not be enough to guarantee a lasting settlement.
Yes, it's the quickest way. Of course, I want to freeze not just freeze the conflict, because we want to live in Ukraine, not just stop the war. We want to stop, and stop the way when the war will not come back because of some crazy people and etc. if they want to come back with this war after some pauses. So it's not the idea just to freeze, but the quickest way to freeze. And to freeze and move it to diplomatic sector, to diplomacy, to negotiators.
On Sunday, Russia and Ukraine exchanged fresh attacks, with both sides accusing each other of targeting civilians. In Ukraine, Russian strikes in the southern Zaporizhzhia region killed at least 2 people, while 3 others were reported dead in 2 separate attacks elsewhere in the country. Meanwhile, Russian authorities say a Ukrainian drone strike hit a car in a border region of Belgorod, killing a woman and injuring her husband.
More breaking news coming in, viewers. This is related to the earthquake in Philippines. A 6.1 magnitude aftershock has hit southern Philippines. This was hours after a 7.8 magnitude earthquake that struck and killed at least 1 person and collapsed buildings.
Now, the earthquake has sparked tsunami warnings across the region, and authorities in the Philippines and Indonesia have been urging residents in the affected coastal regions to move to higher ground immediately. The first quake hit at a depth of 35 kilometers, about 24 kilometers west of Mindanao Island. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center said it noticed that tsunami waves were possible along the coast of Philippines, Indonesia, Palau, Taiwan, and Papua New Guinea.
Japanese authorities separately issued a tsunami advisory for swathes of its Pacific coast, projecting waves of up to 1 meter to hit different regions. Earthquakes are a near daily occurrence in the Philippines, which is situated on the Pacific Ring of Fire, an arc of intense seismic activity stretching from Japan through Southeast Asia and across the Pacific Basin. Eastern Mindanao was rocked by a pair of earthquakes of 7.4 and 6.7 magnitude. This happened in October, killing at least 8 people. These followed a magnitude 6.9 quake that occurred days earlier and killed 76 people and destroyed and damaged 72,000 houses in Cebu province in central Philippines.
Well, for people just joining in, we have some breaking news related to the earthquake in Philippines. A 6.1 magnitude aftershock has now hit southern Philippines. This comes hours after a 7.8 magnitude earthquake had struck and killed at least 1 person and collapsed buildings. Now, the earthquake has sparked tsunami warnings across the region. Authorities in the Philippines and Indonesia are urging residents in the affected coastal regions to move to higher ground immediately. Now, the other regions that have been affected, of course, and the tsunami warnings have been issued is along the coast of Philippines, Indonesia, Palau, Taiwan, and Papua New Guinea. Shifting our focus for now, thousands marched through Albania's capital Tirana, opposing a planned luxury resort project backed by a company linked to Jared Kushner, President Donald Trump's son-in-law.
And protesters gathered in front of Albanian Prime Minister Edi Rama's office, waving Albanian flags and chanting "New Albania." Protesters
also raised "Down with the government" chants This as they demanded the resignation of officials over the controversial $1.6 billion resort proposal.
It's our country. I don't want it to be sold to somebody else. It's dirty money. They discovered this island. What do you mean? It's been discovered. It's ours. It's bullcrap, honestly. It's like, I don't understand this whole, it's gonna help our country, it's gonna boost the economy, it's gonna prepare new job placements. No, it's not, and you know it. Everyone knows it. We're here for our country. It's a protest organized by the citizens. It's completely peaceful.
We're all out together, protecting our country, our land, and I'm protecting my own kids just to have a happy, let's say, life right after 20 years, and I don't know. So we hope that it will have a good ending for everyone.
Now, the project, spearheaded by Kushner's investment firm Affinity Partners, is planned on an island off Albania and along a coastline near the protected wetland. However, developers say that they will progress responsibly.
The ecologically sensitive area is home to flamingos, seals, and nesting sea turtles. Critics warn the project could threaten the fragile ecosystem.
In 2024, Kushner had announced plans to build the resort as part of a wider investment that also included a former army headquarters in the Serbian capital, Belgrade. And just last year, he gave up the Serbia project following street protests against it. And UK Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy has said that he told the US Vice President JD Vance he was wrong to blame the murder of the British teenager Henry Nowak on what he called the mass invasion of migrants.
And speaking to Sky News, Lammy said he spoke to Vance in a phone call in which he told him UK's democratic process is working well and that he was wrong in his comment about the teenager's murder. Listen to this.
Well, I spoke to the Vice President yesterday. And I wanted to emphasize a number of things. The first is that our democratic process is working well. This young man has been convicted. There is an investigation into the police by the Independent Police Complaints Authority. There is an investigation into Hampshire Police by the Inspectorate. The AG is looking at the sentencing in relation to this. The National Police Chiefs are looking at the guidance in relation to this. The second thing was I disagree with him. This has got nothing to do with mass migration.
This comes as Vance, in a social media post, accused European elites of failing to stand up to the politics of self-hatred and mass migration of people who despise the West and hate those who love it. He also said that Novak would have been alive had European leaders stood their ground against such policies.
Lammy said he told Vance that his post was not helpful. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer also reacted to Vance's post, suggesting that the US was trying to interfere in British democracy.
Well, the controversy stems from the December 2025 murder of 18-year-old Henry Nowak, who was handcuffed by police as he lay dying after being stabbed 5 times by 23-year-old Vikram Digwa of Indian origin. Digwa had falsely claimed that Nowak had racially abused and attacked him, and this prompted officers to initially treat the teenager as a suspect rather than the victim.
Hampshire police released body cam footage showing officers arresting Henry Nowak after Digwa was handed a life sentence this week. The footage where Nowak is seen pleading for help while being fatally wounded sparked nationwide outrage. Now, Donald Trump is reportedly mulling his next move on Chagos Islands.
And this is according to a report by Telegraph. Officials in Trump administration. They've laid out options to secure the long-term control of Diego Garcia, the joint US-UK military base located in the Chagos archipelago. A potential American purchase of the islands from Mauritius is also among the options. The idea is not currently the White House's preferred solution, but the report suggests that the possible purchase has been discussed at the highest levels of the US government.
For the United States, Diego Garcia is far more than just an island base. Its location provides a critical launch pad for long-range military operations, putting large parts of West Asia within reach.
Well, the base has played a key role in American military campaigns for decades and is set to host highly sensitive defense capabilities. That strategic importance is driving concerns inside Washington over Britain's plan to transfer sovereignty of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius.
Now, the issue has also exposed growing tensions between President Trump and UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer. London had planned to hand sovereignty of the islands to Mauritius while leasing back Diego Garcia under a long-term arrangement.
But the deal cannot move forward without American approval. President Trump has publicly criticized the plan, but the path to potential purchase of Chagos goes via London. Washington would first need Britain's transfer of sovereignty to proceed for direct negotiations with Mauritius. If Trump launches the bid, it could test the future of the special relationship that exists between Washington and London. Thousands are marching across France after the murder of an 11-year-old who has been named Liana, and which has sparked outrage over alleged failures by police and the justice system.
Now, the case has ignited a national debate on child safety, accountability, and whether warning signs were ignored. Here's a report on it. Take a look.
We feel unsafe because the justice system isn't doing its job. Quite simply, there's been a huge mistake. If they'd done what they were supposed to, that man would be in prison and that little girl would still be here.
I came here because I'm the mother of a little girl, to support the family, to express my anger at the justice system, which apparently didn't do its job.
Europe is playing host to a one-of-a-kind hobby horse championship that has got participants leaping over hurdles and competing in disciplines such as dressage, western trail, and show jumping.
Well, from Prague to Frankfurt, hundreds of young riders, they competed in time jumping, style jumping, and dressage on their wooden stake horses. Roughly 300 riders, mostly youngsters, took part in it. No real horses being used here. And about 20 adults enrolled here as well.
Drawing 1,500 spectators, the competition is part of a growing wave of hobby horsing events internationally. The United States and Australia also held their first championship this year.
In Germany alone, the National Hobby Horsing Association was established a year ago with just 13 members. Now there are more than 5,000 active athletes and more than 200 clubs across the country.
Participants were assessed on criteria such as precision, timing, and presentation. In style and dressage events, judges awarded scores for the highest ranked competitor claiming victory.
Well, the sport traces its roots to a Finnish grassroots movement where enthusiasts rode hobby horses. Again, I repeat, no real horses here. It's just a head of a horse on a stick through Nordic forests over 2 decades ago. Its popularity surged on social media during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Now, it has since then been embraced by many as a symbol of female empowerment. While the competition seeks to promote women's empowerment, acceptance, and inclusivity, critics have questioned the activity's legitimacy as a sport. Many participants have also reported facing bullying and misogynistic comments online.
All right, World DNA will continue. We are going to be taking a very short break. Before we take that break, here's a quick look at images drawing attention around the world. Stay with us.
Get the latest updates.
Destroy their
Breaking
missiles
news.
and raise their...
Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is one.
It's turned out to be the most successful World Cup from the standpoint of what's happening.
The FIFA World Cup is being co-hosted by the United States, Canada, and Mexico and kicks off on June 11th. For the first time in history, the tournament expands to 48 teams playing a record 104 matches.
Get all the updates from the 2026 FIFA World Cup only on WION.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION.
In this rapidly changing world, is your health keeping pace? Best practices and breakthroughs busting the hype with real insights. The timeless power of yoga and ancient healing. Good food, good mood. Small steps, big impact. Your health matters. Only on WION World is One. Because nothing matters more.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching World DNA with Jyotsna. I'm Shivan. Let's start with the headlines at this hour.
Israel says it has struck targets in western and central Iran as Iranian state media reports explosions in cities of Tehran, Tabriz, Karaj, and Isfahan. This comes after U.S. President Donald Trump had reportedly told Israel not to retaliate against the latest Iranian missile salvo.
US President Trump says he calls the shots on any deal with Iran, adding that Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu will have no choice but to accept if a deal is agreed.
A 6.1 magnitude aftershock has hit southern Philippines after an earthquake of magnitude 7.8 that triggered a tsunami alert and evacuation warnings. At least one person has died and 4 others injured.
China's President Xi Jinping hails invincible friendship with North Korea as he heads to the country for a visit. This is Xi Jinping's first trip abroad this year and comes after hosting back-to-back summits with the American and Russian presidents.
The UK, France and Germany issued a joint statement backing Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's call for direct ceasefire talks between Russia and Ukraine. Zelensky met leaders of the 3 countries in London.
At least 5 people were wounded in a stabbing at New York's Penn Station. A suspect has been detained and the victims have been transported to hospital.
South Korean market session halted after stocks fell more than 7% as investors rushed to sell technology shares, triggering a broad market decline. Concerns over evaluations, profit-taking, and weaker sentiment towards major chip makers weighed on the index. The Israeli army has said that it had struck targets in western and central Iran.
Iranian state TV reported explosions in the cities of Tehran, Tabriz and Isfahan. This happened hours after Iran said that it fired multiple waves of missiles at northern Israel, the first barrage since an April ceasefire took hold in the war in West Asia that completed 100 days just on Sunday.
The strikes come despite U.S. President Trump calling Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, advising him against retaliation to make sure that 3 sides could salvage a deal. Well, Trump appeared to downplay the strikes, telling Axios that it did not hurt anyone.
However, moments thereafter, in a post on X, Israeli Defense Forces said that the Israeli Air Force struck military targets belonging to the Iranian regime in western and central Iran.
Israel's National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir earlier said in a post on X that Tehran must burn after the Iranian strikes, while a spokesperson for the Israel Defense Forces said Iran made a grave mistake.
The Iranian terror regime had made a grave mistake when, yet again, it chose terror. The regime is trying to create a new equation. when it carries out direct fire into our territory in response to IDF attacks in the Dahieh. We will not allow it.
Now, in a post on Telegram, IDF said that its chief of the general staff is conducting a situational assessment, adding that Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir has vowed that the country will strike the enemy with determination as soon as the order is given. And of course, we've brought you more details on that as the strikes have already taken place on Iran.
Iran's foreign ministry has said that the country is defending its security and national interests and warned that any attack from Israel against Lebanon or the Islamic Republic of Iran would be met with a crushing and comprehensive response. And we have yet to see that because Israel has now retaliated for the Iranian attacks.
Meanwhile, Iranians took to the streets of Tehran in support of action against Israel. They waved Iranian and Hezbollah flags as they chanted pro-Iranian slogans. All right, to discuss further, we're now being joined live by Lieutenant Colonel Daniel L. Davis from Sterling, Virginia. He's a military expert and host of Daniel Davis Deep Dive on YouTube. Lieutenant Colonel Davis, pleasure speaking with you always. Thanks so much for making time. At this point, Israel has fired back at Iran. The two countries are going at it already, and this is directly. This is the first time in history that Iran has struck Israel because Israel struck a third country. The battle lines are changing completely. Things that we've not seen in the past have taken place in the last 5 hours or so. How do you assess it?
Yeah, we're seeing a more and more confident Iran that they've seen that they can weather the absolute worst that everything Israel and the United States combined can throw at them. And now they're being much more cocky, if you will, just saying, hey, it's not only just us. They have said for a long time that this war will only come to an end when it also comes to an end for Hezbollah in Lebanon. But now they're saying, look, if we're not just going to say that it has to come to an end. If you don't end it, there will be consequences. And now they've shown that tonight. Israel has shown its displeasure, and it says, no, we won't tolerate any of that. So they fired. Now, the big question is, what is going to happen next? Because Iran doesn't seem very likely that they're going to just take these Israeli missiles in response and do nothing. So everything looks like it's about ready to really escalate more. The question is going to be how much, because President Trump put a lot of political capital publicly saying that he told Israel not to respond because he claimed he was close to having a deal to end the war and he didn't want this to upset it. I doubt that there probably really was much of a chance to do that, but it underscores how little influence President Trump has on the Israeli side. And then we'll see what happens even after this, because it puts it in a tenuous position to where now then the President Trump may have to decide, does he support Israel if Iran starts firing back and the whole war kicks off? Or will he say, Israel, you started this, you're going to finish it, but we're not going to join in? That remains to be seen. The history says he probably won't do that, but I know that many in the U.S. government are hoping he does.
Right. And Trump himself, when he was asked about what happens if such a deal fails, he said, and I'm just quoting here, that he said that he would consider a commando raid on Iran. It really does seem that boots on the ground is the option that Trump is willing to go at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that's more rhetoric than reality. There's no boots on the ground option. I'll just categorically tell you that. We have a number of troops in the ground in the region, I think probably around 10,000. That is enough to do a raid or some small issue, maybe in one of the islands. That would be foolish, but you could do something of that nature. But you're not going to do anything of any greater size than that, and certainly not anything that's going to threaten Iran inside the interior, because they would just be probably slaughtered. Because we wouldn't have the ability to sustain something like that deep inside the country, and Iran is ready for any kind of an incursion like that. So I think that's just a bunch of rhetoric that won't materialize in anything, I hope.
Lieutenant Colonel, interesting development that took place. The Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, he in fact had diplomatic consultations with his counterparts from Turkey, UK, France, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Pakistan. Now, at this point, and he also had those consultations after those strikes that Iran carried out on Israel. What does this tell you about Iran's foreign policy? Because all these nations, largely most of them, are US allies who refuse to help US in the war.
Yeah, that tells you that Iran is very much aware of what's going on, and this diplomatic activity is frankly no less a part of their war effort than firing missiles or doing anything else in the Strait of Hormuz. And they are doing everything they can to put space between the United States and its allies by saying, listen, these actions here, this war that the United States and Israel chose is causing significant economic damage across the globe, and we're willing to end that as long as they're willing to end the war here. And so they're trying to bank on the interest and the needs, financial and otherwise, of these other countries to say, listen, this doesn't have to continue on. This does have an end if we get something out of it too, and that is an end to the war, to put pressure on our allies to bring pressure back around into Washington. That's the attempt. We'll see if it's going to work, because the reality is this is harming their interest. It is harming our interest, and we should get this war over with. But in order for that to happen, there's going to have to be an acknowledgement that we failed and that this strategy did not succeed. And that's a bitter pill for anybody in the White House. It's just one that needs to come. Otherwise, this is going to get worse.
But Trump had clearly said that I call the shots and Netanyahu does not. Do you think that Israel is not listening to U.S. at this point?
Yeah, he clearly said that, but it was not clearly received in Israel. I think it's pretty clear. President Trump, that's why I say he put a lot of political capital in saying that publicly through Axios, and it was also in the New York Times and several other big outlets in the United States. And for Israel to then hours later go in and basically claim or display pound sand, I don't really care what you said, we're going to do what we think. And you just played some of the statements coming out of Israel. They were very emphatic about, we will not allow ourselves to be attacked and do nothing in response, no matter what President Trump said. So it's pretty clear who's calling the shots, and it's not anybody in Washington.
Yeah, and we've seen that in Gaza, we've seen that in Lebanon, now we're seeing that between Israel and Iran directly, and this is within an hour or a little more than that of Trump giving those statements to Israel, and still those strikes take place. But let me just quickly bring your attention, sir, to this point that whatever Iran has said till now, whether they spoke about the Strait of Hormuz, what they're going to do there, targeting West Asia bases of the US, going after their technology hubs or the databases in West Asia, and now saying that we will strike Israel, everything they said, they've done. At this point, is it time to accept that the Strait of Hormuz will never go back to its earlier state, as Iran is also claiming?
Yes, it is. And because there are so many ways that Iran could keep physical control, that if people, tankers try to go through or cargo tries to go through that doesn't have the permission of the IRGC, they have shown that they have ways, many ways, to interdict it. And so I mean, nobody, business-wise, nobody's going to challenge that until they have some real assurances that they can safely get in or out of the Strait of Hormuz in the whole region. So we have tried through 40 days, the United States and Israel, to militarily take that control back, and we've shown we can't do it. Therefore, Iran would frankly be irrational to hand that control back over unless they get something really, really substantial in return. And I just can't imagine what we could offer them that would allow them to do that. I think that they recognize that physical control gives them tremendous influence in the region and is probably their most potent deterrent that they have. So I don't think they're going to do it.
Colonel, also, if this escalates at all, what kind of role would the U.S. be playing? Because they have the Armada in West Asia, they have a naval blockade there. What role would U.S. be playing, and what could be U.S.'s next move?
Well, that is the big question, because if President Trump told Netanyahu not to strike tonight, and he did, and then we can expect on Monday there's almost certainly going to be an Iranian response. So that's the question, what happens next? So President Trump told Israel not to do this because we're not supporting that. But now that it turns into a big strike back and forth between Iran and Israel, will the United States stand on the sidelines? Certainly we have plenty of combat power in the region. We have a lot of it. But will we use it if the Israeli side spawned the attack by their attacks against Hezbollah and then the response against Iran? Or will President Trump say, I told you not to do it, you did it anyway, you're on your own? That remains to be seen. Like I said, history, probably he'll do it anyway, even though it's against American national interest, because it won't work, it won't solve the problem. But will President Trump go down that road anyway? We just don't know.
Well, just one last point that I'll take from you. Strikes in Kuwait, strikes in Bahrain, Israel as well, strikes in the Strait of Hormuz. Who's more, and all this has happened in the last 1 week. Who's more desperate for a deal here?
Well, there's no question the United States is, because the harm that's being done to Iran, and it is substantial, by the way. I've talked to many people in the country and in the region, and they say that it is a no joke. The U.S. blockade is causing severe problems inside of Iran, but they're used to that. They have a history of being able to sustain that. Their culture, their religion thrives on suffering, and so they can do it a long time. We can't, and especially because it affects so many other countries, our allies around the world who have no stake in this war at all and don't want it to continue on, will be harmed by it. I think that the longer this goes, the more pressure from the outside on Washington to end this, not just from Iran. So we are definitely have more pressure on us than the Iranian side does. And that even includes our own economy, because the price of gas, the price of diesel, everything, food, all of that is going up. And then you have jet fuel, you have fertilizers, all that. We desperately need this over, much worse than Iran does.
And the costs of fuel are going up, sir, for your end and on our side of the world as well. Those are concerns that we're all facing on our pockets every time we go and fill gas into the car. So we'll need to wait and watch and only hope this returns to some kind of normalcy at the earliest, the earlier normalcy, not what's seeming to be the new normal here. But thank you so much. That was Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis joining us. Always a pleasure speaking with you.
Always my pleasure.
All right, shifting our focus now to other global news. An important India-Bangladesh border meeting is set to begin in New Delhi, with Dhaka expected to raise concerns over alleged push-ins and border killings.
Well, the talks come amid renewed tensions along parts of the nearly 4,000 plus kilometer frontier. India and Bangladesh are preparing for a key round of border talks at a time when concerns over migration and security continue to remain under a focus in the bilateral discussions. The 57th Director General level border coordination conference between India's Border Security Force and Bangladesh's Border Guard Bangladesh is going to be held in New Delhi starting today till the 11th of June.
Now, leading the Bangladeshi delegation will be BGB Chief Major General Mohammad Ashraf Uzzaman Siddiqui, while BSF Director General Praveen Kumar will head the Indian side. Dhaka has already indicated that it plans to strongly raise the issue of alleged push-ins during the four-day meeting.
Well, Bangladesh claims that attempts to send undocumented migrants across the border have increased in recent weeks, prompting tighter surveillance by its border forces. India, however, maintains that only illegal immigrants are repatriated and that all such actions are carried out through established legal procedures and bilateral mechanisms.
New Delhi has repeatedly urged Bangladesh to expedite nationality verification so that the return of illegal immigrants can take place smoothly and in accordance with existing agreements. The talks are also expected to focus on border management, trans-border crimes, smuggling, human trafficking, and improving operational coordination between the two forces.
Well, the meeting carries added value and layer as it is the first high-level border dialogue since Bangladesh's new political dispensation took office earlier in the year.
Now, India and Bangladesh share a 4,096-kilometer international border, one of the longest in the world. More than 860 kilometers of the frontier remain unfenced, including riverine stretches and difficult terrain where fencing is not feasible. Bangladesh shares its boundary with 5 Indian states, including West Bengal, Tripura, Meghalaya, Mizoram, and Assam. India's West Bengal shares the largest part of that border.
Well, with migration, border security and humanitarian concerns all on the agenda, the New Delhi talks will be closely watched on both sides of the border. Both neighbors look to manage one of South Asia's most sensitive frontiers. Chinese President Xi Jinping is all set to arrive in North Korea today.
Now, this is his first visit in 7 years. Xi last met Kim in September when he invited the North Korean leader and Putin as guests of honor to a military parade in Beijing.
Well, ahead of his visit, Xi Jinping described Beijing's friendship with North Korea as invincible, one that does not depend on how the international situation evolves.
Now, China has been North Korea's main trading partner by far for decades and a key source of diplomatic and economic support. It is the only country with an official binding military alliance with China.
Well, the visit comes less than a month after Xi Jinping hosted US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin in Beijing. During Trump's visit, the White House had said that Trump and Xi Jinping confirmed their shared goal to denuclearize North Korea.
However, just a day before Xi's arrival, Kim Jong-un's powerful sister said that North Korea's nuclear weapons program was, quote-unquote, the line of no retreat. Kim has also ordered a 2.5-fold increase in missile production capacity over the next 5 years. The global economy is becoming increasingly fragmented.
And the costs are beginning to add up. A new World Economic Forum report, it estimates that trade fragmentation is already costing the world almost $200 to $300 billion annually. The report also warns that emerging economies could face the biggest fallout if these divisions deepen. Here's a closer look. Take a look. The global economy is paying an increasingly heavy price for growing trade and financial fragmentation. A new report by the World Economic Forum estimates that current fragmentation trends are already costing the world economy between $213 and $307 billion every year. What began as economic tensions between geopolitical rivals is now spreading to traditionally aligned economies. This includes the United States, the European Union, Canada, Japan, and South Korea. According to the report, 2025 and 2026 marked a turning point as governments increasingly relied on tariffs, investment restrictions, and other economic measures. These policies, spearheaded by US President Donald Trump, are creating greater uncertainty for businesses by making cross-border trade and investment more expensive. The report warns that fragmentation is no longer a risk confined to rival blocs. It is becoming a broader structural shift in the global economy. The report's modeling suggests that if fragmentation intensifies, the economic impact could be far greater. In a severe scenario, global output losses could reach $6.9 trillion, equivalent to 6.4% of global GDP. Wage growth could also suffer. In the United States, for example, real wages are projected to be lower across all skill levels under current fragmentation trends. Business leaders cited in the report say that the biggest challenge is the lack of policy predictability, making long-term investment decisions increasingly difficult. While fragmentation affects all economies, emerging markets and developing countries are expected to bear the heaviest burden. Many of these economies rely heavily on international capital flows and have less developed financial markets, making them more vulnerable to disruptions in global finance. The World Economic Forum argues that while fragmentation is unlikely to reverse anytime soon, policymakers can limit the damage by improving policies and creating shared rules for the use of economic measures. A more fragmented world may be unavoidable, but the economic costs can still be managed. Business Bureau, WION World is One. And in South Korea, robots recently shared the runway with human models at a fashion show.
Well, designed to explore a future of human-machine collaboration, they even offered a glimpse of how robots may one day play a role not just in work and industry, but also in creativity, culture, and everyday life. Here's a report on it. Take a look.
Fashion shows are usually about imagining the next big trend. But in Seoul, the future on display wasn't just the clothing, it was the models too. At a runway event hosted by South Korean entertainment technology company Galaxy Corporation, robots and humans took to the catwalk in matching outfits. The show, called Mach 33 Physical AI Fashion Show, featured robots draped in capes before human models revealed the designs underneath. The robots then shared the runway with their human counterparts, walking, posing, and even performing synchronized choreography together.
I believe that one day people will wear fashion inspired by robots, and conversely, robots will wear robotic fashion inspired by humans. That is why we decided to hold a physical AI robot fashion show, because we hope to help create that world someday.
The apparel on display was designed by Galaxy Corporation, which plans to launch the collection under the Mach 33 brand later this year. The event was designed to explore a future where humans and robots coexist, not as competitors but as companions. Galaxy Corporation said the show was meant to present robots as machines capable of sharing emotion, creativity, and even philosophy. By combining fashion, performance, and robotics, the company hopes to offer a glimpse of what the emerging era of physical artificial intelligence could look like. And if this runway is any indication, robots may be finding their way into places far beyond the factory floor. That shift is already underway in South Korea. The country is one of the most automated economies in the world, with more than 1,000 industrial robots for every 10,000 workers. From advanced manufacturing to humanoid machines, South Korea has spent years investing in robotics, AI, and automation. And as the technology evolves, robots are increasingly being asked to do more than just work.
All right, now Alexander Zverev wait for a Grand Slam title is over. The second seed defeated Flavio Cobolli to win his Roland Garros title.
Well, the German was the favourite to win in Paris after world number one Jannik Sinner and 24-time Grand Slam champion Novak Djokovic were knocked out of the tournament. Zverev cruised through the opening set, dropping just one game, but Italian Flavio Cobolli roared back. A single break in a lengthy seventh game proved decisive, and the 10th seed took the set 6-4 to level the match, and the momentum swings continued. The 29-year-old Zverev, playing in his fourth Grand Slam final, claimed the third set, but he immediately surrendered his serve in the opening game of the fourth. He then failed to serve out the set at 5-4, but raised his level in the tiebreak, winning the key points to force a deciding fifth set. In the final set, after taking electrolytes to fend off a cramp, Zverev broke twice to race into a commanding 4-0 lead. Cobolli kept his hopes alive with a hold in the fifth game, but he ran out of steam while serving to stay in the match. Zverev sealed a 6-1, 4-6, 6-4, 7-6, 6-1 victory.
All right, with that, we call a wrap to World Dinner for today. News and updates will follow on the other side. You're watching WION The World is one. Do stay tuned.
It's turned out to be the most successful World Cup from the standpoint of what's happening.
The FIFA World Cup is being co-hosted by the United States, Canada, and Mexico and kicks off on June 11th. For the first time in history, the tournament expands to 48 teams, playing a record 104 matches.
Get all the updates from the 2026 FIFA World Cup only on WION.
In this rapidly changing world, is your health keeping pace? Best practices and breakthroughs, busting the hype with real insights. The timeless power of yoga and ancient healing. Good food, good mood. Small steps, big impact. Your health matters. Only on WION World is One. Because nothing matters more.
Get the latest updates.
Destroy their
Breaking
missiles
news.
and raise their...
Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is one. Get the latest updates.
Destroy their
Breaking
missiles
news.
and raise their...
Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is one.
Thanks for staying with us. You're watching WION World is One. I'm Adhya Juneja, and this